Hello, Generations family. On this Easter 2021, I have a message for you. You know, when it comes to amusement parks, there are two kinds of people. So if you're going to Kings Island, Cedar Point, Busch Gardens, there are two kinds of people, and I wonder which kind of person you are. They're the kind that ride the roller coasters. They're going to get in line. They're going to go through as many times as they can, and they are going to make a day of it. And then there are kind of people who will not get on any roller coaster. They stand apart from the line, and they can be depended upon to hold the sunglasses and phones of all of the people in the first group, the people who are riding those rides over and over and over again. And I gotta wonder, which person are you? Are you a coaster rider, or are you a coaster avoider? Me? I am a coaster avoider. I do not like not being in control. An effective roller coaster, in my opinion, and I've ridden some, an effective roller coaster feels like a Boeing 737 Air Max that's experienced massive engine failure. And I don't like that sensation. In 2013, my wife suffered a double pulmonary embolism. And I remember being in the emergency room, and I remember her asking the doctor, "Am I going to die?" And he looked at her, and without skipping a beat, all he said was, "Mrs. Vanderpool, I don't know. I just know you're exactly where you need to be." Was she going to live? Was she going to die? I didn't know. In 2003, just 10 years before that, I gave up my job, my income, my security to help launch Generations Community Church. Would Generations flourish, or would Generations flop like every other church plant the previous 10 years, from 1993 to 2003? I didn't know. There's a sensation that you get in your stomach with these kinds of moments, kind of like butterflies in your stomach, but not the butterflies that you get when you're falling in love. Those are the good kind of butterflies in their stomach. No, these are the kind of butterflies in your stomach that produce acid reflux, that make you think to yourself, I just want to throw up. And there's been a lot of things over the past few years to stir up those internal butterflies, to stir up those fears and worries and anxiousness and anxiety. Donald Trump losing, Donald Trump winning, right? In the realm of politics in the United States, the last several elections have been framed as this, oh my goodness, it's going to be the end of America if we don't or if we do. People are going to take away your guns and freedom, or, oh my goodness, they're going to drive the earth finally into the death spiral of climate change. Like apocalyptic type terms is how politics gets discussed in our nation these days. COVID-19, the past year of masks and social distancing, and there's a new variant, beware, beware. And as I've been talking to a number of you are feeling anxious being around people again because you've spent the year inside and away and following all the measures, and now when you go to a store, you're anxious. Today is Easter Sunday, and Easter comes to people who have been shaken, who are afraid, and who've had their expectations turned upside down. Easter comes to people who are afraid. Isaiah chapter 52, verse 7, the prophet Isaiah says this, "How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of the messenger who brings good news, the good news of peace and salvation, the news that the God of Israel reigns." Jesus himself in the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 27 says this, I'm leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid. Today on Easter Sunday, I want to be in one short passage from the Gospel of John. John chapter 20, verses 19 to 23. That Sunday evening, the disciples were meeting behind locked doors because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders. Suddenly, Jesus was standing there among them. Peace be with you, he said. As he spoke, he showed them the wounds in his hands and his side. They were filled with joy when they saw the Lord. Again, Jesus said, peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you. And then he breathed on them and said, receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone's sins, they're forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven. Now, most of you know the big parts of this story. On Thursday night, Jesus was betrayed by one of his friends, and he was arrested. On Friday morning, he was beaten and tried. And then later, he was led to a hill outside of Jerusalem where he was crucified and died. On Saturday, Jesus lay in the tomb, dead. And on Sunday, the tomb was empty. The empty tomb was first discovered by some women who thought that there had been some troublemakers who had come in the middle of the night and stolen Jesus' body, the body of their friend and rabbi. And Peter and John, when they heard that report, they ran to the tomb to see for themselves. And sure enough, it was empty. The napkin that had been wrapped around Jesus' face, neatly folded on the cement slab inside the tomb. And so later that night, this happens. They're all gathered in a room, and then suddenly Jesus appears to them. Jesus has risen from the dead. So I want you to pay attention. What did Jesus say? How did Jesus act? He's just risen from the dead. So what did he say and how did he act? I want you to notice a few things about this passage. The disciples were meeting behind locked doors. First of all, the doors were locked. The doors were locked. The disciples were afraid of the authorities. They were afraid of other people. They were afraid that of all the events that had taken place in the last couple of days, were they next? Were they going to be led off to a hill and be crucified? Did Jesus really die? I mean, that wasn't supposed to happen. They thought he was supposed to be the Messianic king. The doors were locked. Now, Jesus appears to them with a physical body. He shows them his hands and his side, the wounds that he had received just 2 days prior. Don't ask me how it happened. I don't know. But Jesus has a physical body, not like ours. Spoiler, exactly like the resurrection body that you and I are going to get on Resurrection Day. But Jesus has a physical body. Here's what I do know. What does this tell me? Jesus can go where no one else can go. Jesus can go where no one else can go. He can go where no lover can go. He can go where no doctor can go. He can go where no counselor or therapist can go. There is no place that you can go that Jesus can't. The doors were locked. That didn't keep Jesus out. So first of all, the doors were locked. Secondly, The disciples were afraid because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders, the text tells us. I don't know what you're afraid of these days. I'll just tell you a few things that have been in my fear, worry, anxiousness wheelhouse in the last year or so. At the beginning of last year, I'm going to be honest, I applied for several part-time jobs because I was afraid that Generation's income would tank as people got laid off and lost their jobs due to the pandemic and the lockdowns. I've been afraid of losing Jenny. I've been afraid of what will happen to Generations Community Church when I'm 60-some years old and I ride off into the sunset. Will Generations be okay? I've been afraid of sending my kids into the world. Are they really ready for the world that's out there? Ugh. Lots of angst in there from time to time. But here's the thing. Jesus comes to his disciples when they're afraid. Jesus will come to you when you're afraid. And that's the last thing I want you to observe about this passage. Jesus comes. He comes and stands in their midst. And that's exactly what Jesus wants to do today with you. Peace be with you. Shalom be with you. The Greek is irene, be with you, but we know Jesus spoke Aramaic, and so he probably said shalom be with you. Shalom. It's a Hebrew word that describes a person who is whole and safe, sound and uninjured. It's even a greeting to this day, shalom, my friend. Adam and Eve in the book of Genesis lost shalom when they sinned and rebelled. Israel lost shalom when Israel sinned and rebelled, and the Assyrians and the Babylonians came in. But the prophets of the Old Testament promised that shalom would come, not just for Israel, but for the whole world as a gift from the Mashiach, from the Messiah. And the prophet Isaiah tells us that this coming Messiah, whom we know as Jesus, is the Prince of Peace, the Prince of Shalom. Jesus is going to bring shalom between him and us and him. Jesus becomes our friend. Jesus is going to bring shalom between us and God. God is now not somebody waiting to squash us or punish us, but God is our loving Father. Jesus brings shalom between us and others. There's no hostility. There's no isms, ists, or ism-ists, like racism, sexism, that kind of stuff. Shalom between us and ourselves, or us and our soul. We've got a clear conscience. There's no more, I just can't forgive myself for. And then shalom between us and the world. Jesus is the Prince of Shalom. And this shalom is a gift. That's John 14, verse 27. I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart, and the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid. Let me ask a couple of questions, Team Generations. First of all, where is there a lack of peace in your life? Where is there a lack of peace in your life? And then secondly, who do you need to make peace with? Who do you need to make peace with? Let me suggest some ways to take this home. You feeling afraid or shaken like the disciples were? Not sure what God is up to next in your life? Might be a good idea to use your God-given imagination, close your eyes, and actually visualize Jesus coming into that place, coming into that job situation, coming into that relationship, just coming in and being there and saying to you, peace, peace be with you. Shalom, my friend, shalom. Jesus has defeated death itself. He's got the hands and the scar to prove it. And he's committed to you. He's with you and for you. How might that change your confidence level for Jesus to enter the room with you? Secondly, I want to remind you that peace and worry cannot coexist. Peace and worry cannot coexist. Peace will not share any space in your life, in your inner life, with fear or worry. Worry, fear, and anxiety will create a pressure inside your body that will force out any peace that you have. And Jesus will not give you worry, fear, or anxiety. What does he give? Shalom. Thirdly, Jesus can give peace with yourself. The disciples in that room were feeling ashamed, guilty, and disappointed in themselves. They had all abandoned their friend and their rabbi in the hour where he needed them the most. Peter denied him. The others fled and hid. What kind of friends were they? And now Jesus appears right in the middle of the room. What did Jesus say to them? And Jesus spoke unto them, saying, "You miserable failures," and gave them a whack on the back of the head. Is that what Jesus did? What did he do? Is that what he did? No. Peace be with you. Peace be with you. Jesus can give you peace with yourself. I spent some time Thursday with James Ballard, and as you know, the Ballards are in this incredible journey right now as Rochelle undergoes chemotherapy and radiation treatments. And we were talking about this passage and talking about Easter and our wives' health and all that kind of stuff that you talk about when you're clearing brush, right? And James brought up this passage from Colossians chapter 3, where Paul says, "Let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts. For as members of one body, you're called to live in peace and always be thankful. Let the peace of Christ rule." And James said, "Max, you got to surrender. Jesus comes as king. You want his peace? You got to surrender. It's palms up, open hands, open heart. If you want to have that peace, Jesus has to rule. When you're in charge, when you're in control, when you're behind the wheel, peace is going to elude you." Kyle Idleman mentions a surrender in the shower moment that would be good for every follower of Jesus to practice. You know the top 4 things that people do in the shower in the morning? They go over their to-do list. They turn in their mind all of their problems and worries. They daydream. Some of you sing, let's be honest. Or they work. Those are the top 4 things Americans do in the shower. And Kyle says, why don't you surrender in the shower? Why don't you, as you're showering, God, I give this to you. God, I give it all to you. God, my hands and my heart are open. I surrender. I need the King, the Prince of Peace, to come and give me peace. A life of faith starts with a decision. In the lobby of our facility here, we have 3 pictures on the wall, head, heart, and hands, that mark out the path of a disciple of Jesus. And the first one, the one that has a picture of a head, speaks to the fact that the life of faith starts with a decision. It starts with a decision. Jesus, you are the Messiah. You are the King of the universe, and you are enough. Your life, your death, your resurrection mean that I don't have to hide from God anymore. I don't have to hide from others. I don't have to hide from myself. Forgive me, restore me. Today, I will follow you. Today, I will trust you. It starts with a decision. I want to remind you on this Easter Sunday that the first time Jesus appears in the Scriptures, to all of the disciples who are gathered together, it's in this room where the doors are locked and they're afraid. And what does Jesus say to all of them? Shalom. Shalom be with you. It's a gift worth receiving.